Hello, my name is David Prieto. I am in Group D. The title of my project is Picture Exchange Communication System on Increasing Independent Communication Using a Single Subject Design. To give background, um, the participant is Nicholas P. They are 4 years old. They receive about 20 billable hours a week of in-home therapy. Caregivers express that they have no forms of communication that involve vocalization, um, other than a point, some babbles here and there, as well as, if they require assistance, they usually will bring the item to either caregiver, mom or dad. Parents express that they are looking for more of an alternative form of communication. So essentially, the purpose of this study was to evaluate the effectiveness of the PECs on how it would increase independent manning using a single subject reversal design. The goal essentially was to observe improvement, which if we take a look at the graph, we see that during baseline, it was more so just trying to fill out if demands were more spontaneous or if they were more obviously motivating operations. So during that, there weren't a lot of independent man's man were more inconsistent during this time, and then obviously we see, once the intervention is introduced, that that association between um, that contingency obviously was a lot more apparent and observable for not only us but the patient as well. So during this picture exchange, prompts were given, a positional and a gestural prompt were given that were eventually gradually faded out. But during this time, we see obviously an increase in independent manding. Um, and then once this PEX is removed, we see that decrease in manding. Obviously, that form of communication, the participant was able to kind of catch on very quick. But we see that the data points don't get as low as the baseline did, which kind of determines that the overall understanding and consciousness of functionally manding has improved, which is great. And then obviously when the PEX is introduced, we see more of a consistent and upward trend um, during this. Therefore, this pattern really does demonstrate the functional relationship between PEX and the independent manning. Um, Essentially, there is changes in behaviors that were systematically tied to the presence and the absence of the intervention, which strengthens the internal validity um, of the findings. Another point that I want to point out is that there obviously is an increase in what wasn't just prompted responses, but independent communication. Um, in terms of the implication, one key takeaway is that PECs can be highly effective in establishing functional communication, particularly demanding for individuals with limited repertoires, which was um, this case study right here. But we also see at the same time there's decreases in responding during the withdrawal phases, which kind of highlights how fragile communication skills can be. So essentially, that this suggests that consistent implementation and ongoing support are essential when teaching these foundational skills within early intervention. Um, I would also like to emphasize the importance of focus on independence, using systematic prompt feeding, and ensuring that communication is reinforced in a meaningful and immediate way. The limitations that I faced during this study was that it was only a single participant study, which limit um, generalizability. Also, the duration was very short as well. I was only able to do about 20 sessions during this time period. So we were able to kind of do about 10 trials per session. Um, I would also say additionally that the study primarily measured frequency of responses and didn't assess other dimensions. So there was no formal report of treatment fidelity or intro observant agreement. Um, If the study would be conducted again, I believe I would make several refinements that could straighten it. For example, including multiple participants, and also using multiple baseline design, which also could improve the external fidelity of the case study. Also, finally, maybe like incorporating treatment fidelity and IOA would straighten the methodological rigor of the case study just in general. I think that um, having time to incorporate those other thoughts and ideas would help straighten the overall case study. But I think just overall, the study provides strong evidence that the PECS is functionally effective in increasing independent communication. At the same time, it also highlights the importance of consistency, generalization, and long-term planning to ensure these communication gains are maintained and meaningful in everyday environments.